Okay, so hello there, long time no see yet again. Obviously I was busy with my internship, but I actually did record a video last weekend, but when I was editing it I realized that my dress was a lot more revealing than I thought it was, and I've decided I'm not going to post it on the internet. And like, I didn't expose myself or anything, but it wasn't like I wasn't comfortable with showing that much cleavage in my videos. It was the second language tag, so I might record it again, I'm not sure. But yeah, I was actually quite satisfied with the way this video turned out, but yeah, I can't really post it. Okay, so I was in a terrible reading slump during second half of June and throughout most of July. So I only finished 3 books in July, but I'm going to talk about 4 books actually. So you will get one bonus book, I will talk about that one at the end. You will probably see a trend going with my reading during this month. Probably you will notice it at book like 2 or 3, but yeah. Okay, so I'm not going to actually in this video talk about the books I read in July according to the rating I gave those books, but in order I actually read them. You will see why soon. Okay, so the first book I finished in July was Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult. I gave this 3 stars. This is a book about a black nurse, Ruth, who was accused of killing a newborn. She was actually told not to look after him because the father of the baby didn't want her to, because she was black. So we see the whole thing from 3 perspectives. The nurse, Ruth, her lawyer, Kennedy, and the father, white supremacist. So that was a lot. The thing that bothered me the most really was the fact that I had to question the book a lot of the time. So the plot choices, or like the character choices that the author made, I was constantly questioning myself if she wrote things the way that they were written because she researched a lot of stuff, or was it just stereotypical? You know what I mean? So I feel like in the future, if I want to read a book about racism, I'm not going to reach for a book that was written by a white woman to white people. That's kind of the bottom line. I actually used to read a lot of Jodi Picoult in middle school and high school, so I was interested to see if I would get along with her books now too, because, you know, my reading taste changed a lot during those few years. And I have to say, she can write pretty well. There were some metaphors where I thought they were quite heavy-handed and a little bit laughable. But yeah, overall, not as terrible as I thought it was going to be, but I could only give it 3 stars. The second book that I read was Invitation to a Beheading by Vladimir Nabokov. This is a story about a man who was sentenced to death and then sent back into prison to kind of wait for his death sentence to happen. There really isn't much of a plot here. It's more about the characters, the world that the story is set in, and the form of the book really. Like, it all reads kind of like a play. It's all kind of dreamlike and absurd and bizarre and weird, and yeah, it reminded me at first, the first like 1/3 of the book really reminded me of a fly, sorry. The first 1/3 of the book really reminded me of, oh my god, another one. What's happening? Is it because of my grapefruit juice? Go away. Where was I? Okay, so the first 1/3 of the book really reminded me of The Trial by Kafka, and that really put me off really. But then the story kind of evolved, and no, like nothing really happens. The ending was both surprising and not surprising at all. I don't really know how I feel about this. There was a lot of like literary references that I didn't really find. And I feel like I only understood this book after reading the afterword. So they talked about the literary references and what the story was about, and I felt like some things I did catch. But the first thing I didn't catch was the fact that this was actually set in the future. But because this was written in like, what, 1960s? I don't even know. I feel like I couldn't really catch that because for me it was already set in the past. So even if this was supposed to be the future, I didn't really see that. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I don't know. I feel like the afterword really made me realize that there was a lot more to the story than I realized, but I don't know. It was weird. I gave it 3 stars. Go. Okay, so finally I can talk about this book. The Luminaries by Eleanor. Boy, this book took me like 3 months to read. I mean, I stopped reading it for like 1 month, but yeah. When I was kind of preparing to make this video, so I was reading like reviews and Goodreads to kind of see what I agree and what I disagree with, I was kind of getting more and more angry and realized that maybe my initial 3.5 star rating isn't really right. I don't know, at this point I feel like maybe it's a 3-star book, maybe even less than that, but let me first tell you what this book is about. It's set in New Zealand during the gold fever in 1960s. We start off with Moody, who arrives at Hokitoka? What was the name of the... I should know this, I really should know this. Hokitika? Yeah, whatever, the place. I will put it on the screen. He arrives there and he goes to his hotel and decides to go to this room downstairs to relax, to like read the newspaper before he goes to sleep. And he meets 12 people there, and he feels like it's kind of weird because they're all from like different classes, from backgrounds and stuff, and he feels like it's kind of weird that they all met there, and it all feels suspicious. And he talks to this one guy and he decides he's going to tell him what's going on. So basically there are three like weird things that happened in this town on the same day. A prostitute was attempting to commit suicide, a very wealthy man disappeared, and a poor man was found dead, and in his house they found a lot of gold. All of those things sound quite suspicious, and those 12 people that met in this room, they're all kind of involved and they're trying to figure out what happened exactly. There's a lot of like astrology involved in this book. So on the first page you actually have this thingy, not sure if you can see it or not, but there are like 12 zodiac signs and the 12 people we meet in that room. So basically you should easily come to a conclusion that each member of that meeting is kind of assigned to a different zodiac sign. So there's a lot of astrology in this book that really went over my head. I'm not really interested in astrology, but yeah. Oh boy, I really don't even know where to start with like review of this book or whatever. When I first started this book, I was loving it. When we were seeing things from the perspective of Moody, I really connected with his character, and I thought he was really clever, and I was really looking forward to seeing things from his perspective, but turns out that's not what happens. We kind of see the events unfolding through the eyes of 12 people from this meeting. So that's a lot, and actually those 12 people are not all of the characters in this book. There's like, I would say overall there's like 20 characters in this book, if not more. And that's a lot. There were obviously characters that I liked more than the others, but the thing is we don't spend, the characters that I liked, we don't spend enough time with them because we have so many other people that I just kind of felt disconnected from the story. Because of that, there's also, so clever, there's also 12 parts of this book. The first part is the longest, and each part that comes later on is shorter. So at first we have like 300 pages long first part or 400 pages long first part, and like the last parts are like 10 for 2 pages long or something like that. So like I said, the farther you get, the shorter the parts are. It's all very clever, it's all very well thought out, it's all very well written. But the thing is, I just didn't care. First of all, we see this one day, because like I said, those 3 events happened during one day. Did I say that? I don't know, whatever. All of those things happened during one day, like 2 weeks ago, the 2 weeks before the meeting happened, something like that. And we kind of see the events unfolding through the eyes of 12 people, but we see kind of the same things over and over again, if you know what I mean. Obviously, we find out more information from like different perspectives. The more people we see the events unfolding from, the more we know about the situation. But it was just so repetitive because we were seeing the same day over and over and over again. And then I think the first part is 400 pages long, and kind of each part talks about a different day, sometimes in the future, sometimes in the past. Yeah, I know it's a lot. But it was just boring. I didn't care about the characters enough. I didn't care about the story enough. I felt like the mystery was a very weak one. Like I didn't really see the things coming, but they were unfolding very slowly, and I'm personally someone who really loves slow books, so like slow burns, that's my jam. But this just didn't work for me. I didn't care about anything, and yeah, it's upsetting because this is a well-written book, a well-researched book. Eleanor Catton definitely not only can write, but also can create very complicated characters, and she really understands human psychology, I feel like, but it just didn't work for me. I don't know. I'm really sad to say that, because when I said in my video that I'm going to read this book, a lot of people said, oh my god, I had this book on my bookshelf for a long time and I'm not sure if I should unhaul it or finally read it. And I'm sorry friends, but I don't have an answer for you here. I've heard people say that this book is fascinating and that you really can't put the book down. I definitely could put the book down. I didn't feel like that, but I feel like it depends on what kind of reader you are, what you're interested in, what you like, what you don't like. For me, I don't know, it didn't really work. I didn't like the ending. I feel like I finished it and I didn't really think about this book after I finished it. I was just kind of like, okay, thank God that's over. So while I was reading the reviews today on Goodreads, I kind of realized that I was really let down by the ending. I don't know what to say. It was a 3-star book, and I'm just kind of, at this point I'm left with, was it worth spending 3 months on reading this book, reading those 900 pages, just to be like, yeah, that was pretty mediocre? I don't know. Also, another thing, this book was 900 pages long. Okay, the English version is 800 pages long, whatever. It definitely didn't have to be that long. There are things that could definitely be edited out. Sometimes I actually docked some pages. There were things that, like I said, it was repetitive, but I understand why it was important to the story. But sometimes there was a specific situation. 2 characters were talking about the events, and one character was saying, okay, so I think that's what happened to Anna, the prostitute. I don't think she did that, but I think she could have went there and done that. And the other character is like, oh, I don't know about that, and the other character is kind of goes on what he thinks happened. And then the other character that's in this discussion kind of has this internal monologue about, oh, so he thinks that Anna did that, but I don't think that's true. And it's like, I was there, I was reading the pages, it happened like 2 pages ago. Why are you like recapping what he just told you? Like, it was so unnecessary. It was like this whole paragraph of him just telling me what I just read. And I was like, this should have been cut out. So yeah, I'm angry. I cannot like recommend this book to you, but I can't really not recommend this. So yeah, this review I'm sure was very helpful. And the last book that I actually started in July but finished in August, but I feel like if I don't talk about it now, I will forget how I felt about it, because it's a novella, it's very short. Let's just get it out of the way. That is Lady Susan by Jane Austen. I gave it 3 stars. Yeah, the same rating I gave every other book I read in July. What a great reading month. It wasn't bad, okay? I love Jane Austen, but I don't like. I've read all of her novels, but I didn't love all of them. So I can't really tell you. It's an epistolary novel, so it's kind of told in like correspondence. It's about Lady Susan. Basically, her husband died and she has a daughter, and she moves into her brother's house for some time with her daughter, and she wants to marry off her daughter to a rich guy, and you know, that causes a lot of drama. It was fine. It was a lot more scandalous compared to her other novels. This reminded me a lot of her Juvenilia, because this was actually written when she was like 19 or 20, I believe. So her Juvenilia was also quite scandalous compared to her novels, but it also reminded me of Sense and Sensibility, which I did not like. Sense and Sensibility is actually my least favorite Jane Austen's novel. I give it only 2 stars. And yeah, if I remember correctly, Sense and Sensibility is also told partly through letters, I think. And I don't think Jane Austen is really great at epistolary novels. She was going through this phase of writing epistolary novels or novellas, whatever, when she was younger, because actually Sense and Sensibility was written not long after this one. And it was written by the end of the 18th century, and in the 18th century epistolary novels were really popular. So Jane Austen was kind of following the trend, and I'm glad she found her own voice and stopped writing in an epistolary form, because I don't think that really suits her. I don't think that's her strong point. I don't know, Jane Austen is really good at writing dialogue. Jane Austen is really good at very subtly putting a social critique in her novels, and you kind of need to step back from the story and not write through the eyes of the characters to do that. So yeah, in that aspect this was very lacking. But you know, it was, the ending was very abrupt, but it was, you know, entertaining enough. So 3 stars. I'm currently reading 2 books, Harry Potter and the Order of Phoenix, and Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit. Hopefully August will be a better reading month for me, because that is just a mess. Only 3 stars throughout the whole month. So that's everything I have for you today. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye!